get out around some of the lines here, just so they don't go totally off whack. Because some of these lines are pretty light. Alright, that gives me something. Alright. I'm going to go ahead here. Morning, Andrea. And I'm going to use a really watery mix here. I'm just going to, now you can do the kind of flowers that you enjoy doing. Tap off if it's too watery. And you can always go back and pick up a little bit with a bit drier brush. And then I'm going to give that a minute to dry. I'm going to make some in all directions here. Just in all directions. And then maybe some that come off. So I'm going to make some on my circle. See how it's in line with my circle? I'm going to come slightly off of my circle. And make maybe some more bud or smaller areas. And then in some ways I might come just pull up some of that water. And I'm going to pull up some here. And just don't get your brush too wet. That's what happens when you get a real watery mixture, especially if you have a synthetic or a natural hair brush or a natural hair blend with synthetic hair. Sometimes you can pick up extra water in those watery mixes. Sometimes you need to tap off and get some of that extra water out of your brush. So we're just going to make this area here pretty substantial. Just in this area here, it's going to be floral heavy. I'm going to come back here and see if I can't. You need to wait really for this to dry. It's not really dry very well. I'm trying to make some inner buds or inner leaves, petals, whatever here. They're going to be lighter. And you can do those first and then come back with your darker bud. So we're just going to leave that for now. I'm not sure how much is going to bleed. So we'll keep an eye on it. Andrea, I mixed some phthalo blue with a little bit of green. I'll use a touch of orange and a little small bit of brown. You don't necessarily have to have the brown though. Just a little bit of cadmium orange with, just very little bit of that. That cadmium orange is only used to kind of mute down. You want to mute it down. I want muted tones for this particular painting. And really getting in there and playing with your paints is what's going to help you with your blends. Sometimes you don't want all these very strong, rich, saturated colors. Sometimes you want something more muted. Alright, so I'm going to kind of, let's see, I think I want a few more. Notice how you can see this. Notice how I'm kind of pulling from the edge. See how my paints now have kind of pulled to that edge over here? I'm pulling from the edge of that pile because it's going to help me, if I have any water in my brush, it's going to help me keep this a lighter consistency. I don't want that thick, heavy. That paint now is very concentrated. So be very careful about picking up where you pick up your paints from. And I'm just going to pull a couple of little buds off. They don't have to be anything spectacular. And I'm just going to pull some little, we're just making swipes. These are not. Okay. I'm going to take, now I'm going to go into that concentrated area. I'm going to tap off. And I'm going to come down here and I'm going to make this more significant. So you can see that the petals on the backside are lighter. You can definitely do that for these as well. Just going back. I'm just tapping in little bits of color at the bottom and then pulling my brush towards it, my damp brush towards it, so that the color stays near the bottom side. And we don't have any hard lines when any new paint causes it to dry, or any new paint causes a hard line. We've got tap, tap, tap right down here, just like that. All right. Damp brush, and then I'm just going back and you can do this all at once, or you can do it later. Or you can leave it off altogether. You don't have to have it at all. It just adds a little extra, that's all. I'm going to actually I picked up a good amount here, and I'm going to make some darker petals here. And I've got those lighter ones there in the back. All right, so we're going to leave that. Now I'm going to take some, since we used orange in this mixture, I'm going to go ahead, I think I'm going to use like some, maybe a corally color, but I need to mute the corally color. So I'm going to actually make my coral first. There we go. Okay, let's see what this is looking like. I'll make the coral first. This looking like it could be a little more kinky. Just add a little bit more. I think over to the side of here. On my, whatever you call it, the oh yeah, I'll think of it in a minute. Okay, that's the color I'm looking for right there. Very pretty, soft, orangey, pink color. And then I'm going to take and mute this color now. So I'm going to use some of this color that I already blended over here. I'm not going to use much of it, and it's going to talk to each other. And I'm just going to use a little bit in this mixture, and it's going to mute it down. Okay. You just need to test it because you never know. And that did mute it down quite a bit. I think I like that. That's perfect. So it's not like vibrant like this. It's much more muted. Okay. So we're going to try and work in some of these tones here. Alright, so he's sitting, I'm going to use try not to cover too much of your bunny. Okay. And then I can go into the deeper color and I can tap along the inside aspects of this color. And you can see what happens there. And I'm going to watch that because it could give me a hard line, and so I'm going to be careful. And then I'm going to take and move. You want your flowers to turn, like this one's facing right at us. You want your flowers to turn and twist at different angles. And I'm going to do some maybe up here. I'm just going to leave that be for right now, and then we'll come back to it and add some darker. Coming back, I see any hard lines developing from this. I'm taking my damp and clean brush and pulling back. Let's try again. Be careful with the water content when you tap in. If you tap in too much water, it's going to create a gleam. This was starting to do that, and so we're just trying to be careful there. All right, let's see. Just making some smaller flowers here, kind of like in this area. Okay, we're just going to keep going around. Hey, Mary. Yeah, it's a really pretty color, and just because we added some of this that we already made, we always want them to be to talk with one another. Okay, so now we're gonna let's see. I'm gonna pull in some yellow. I'm not gonna use much yellow because yellow we know is just so vibrant. Make sure I get all that on my brush and use what water I have to kind of really add some. All right, I'm gonna take. Let's see here. I don't know if I want to use purple, but I may have to. All right, I'm gonna move some purple over to the side. Get most of that off my brush, and just come over here. Whatever's left, I'll put it in my yellow. Whatever was left on my brush, I'll put it in my yellow. Hey, Sandy, good morning. Good morning, ladies. Good to see you this morning. Hope everybody had a safe weekend. So let's try this yellow here. Yes, that's perfect. That's perfect yellow right there. You see that? I know there's some shadows going on in my studio right now, so we're gonna go with that. Not a lot of fuss with that, but I'm not gonna use a ton of that either. Just a little bit. So I kind of come add another little line right here. Go back to the beginning if you're coming in late and see how I showed you how to trace this one. This will help you in the long run, I think, with struggling with something similar to this or doing one. All right, so we've got our circle, but sometimes we know that wreaths are prettier when they have all these areas that want to go more in the direction that florals want to go, right? A stem doesn't always want to follow a circle. It wants to go up, maybe straight in a different curve. So that's what we need to think about when we're talking about these types of florals. So I'm going to kind of come up here and I'm going to pop in some of this yellow here. Just little bits. And I'm just doing simple flowers, right? I'm using actually my brush in its natural state and just popping down a couple of little, and then I'm going to kind of come and I'm going to swivel my brush some too. And then maybe here. Got some more when you need it. You don't have to make, I mean, these are loose. I want you to get loose with your flowers here. I want you to feel like you've got to be perfect with them. And then maybe I'm going to add a little bit of this color, this really pretty color here to the bottom of that one, just to get a little difference. You want to go on both sides of this line. On some of them, you want to go on both sides of the line, right? Okay. I'm not sure how well you're seeing that, but right, this time I'm come back here and try to soften off some of these hard lines we've got going on. It's okay really to have hard lines in some of your flowers. You don't want them all of them, but I'm just going to try to soften those edges. I'm not trying to get rid of the dark color, because that's the reason why I put it down there, but on this particular one, since it's forward facing, I kind of want it to have a softer edge to it. Okay. All right, let's see. I'm going to take some of this color here and put it over here. We want balance in our flowers. So wherever you put this color, you might want it in the opposite corner, and this color in the opposite corner. So you want to balance out things. So again, I'm going to the outer area to collect my paint. So I need to pull over a little bit more, I will. And then kind of come up here, here. And maybe do more of a, something that looks like, what do you call that stuff? That greenery stuff that smells so good. So I'm just going to put some of that. I rinsed my brush, but I still have some of that paint in my brush. I'm just going to swivel some of that wet paint in my brush here, because I want variations of this. You want everything going more than one direction. Eucalyptus, there you go. There you go, Sandy. Or, there you go, Sherry. Let me get a different size brush here. Using different size brushes will help give you, good results as well. Use a little bit of eucalyptus seeds here as well. And I'm going to go in. Try to pull in a stem here. Just little stems. And then I'm going to pull brown. I'm going to be careful, so I'm really going to get my flowers in first. I'll do my browns later, because I don't want to muddy my water up too quickly. Let's use some different color greens as well. I'm going to use this deep sap green. And even though I still have some yellow left, so I need to actually use that somewhere as well. Excuse me, guys, I'm sorry. I'm just not green off my brush really well. So I'm going to take and use some of this yellow here and there. It doesn't have to be huge bits of it, right? It can be just tiny little areas. I'm going to put maybe some here. And turn your page, turn your page. Just back and forth. Yeah, just very soft colors. I don't like just very muted tones. And let's see here. Let me use some more of this color. Make sure you watch which water you're going into. Over here, I can't show you. Let me show you by doing this. See, I got a cool side and a warm side. If you're working with the cooler tones, stay on the cooler side water. If you're working with the warm tones, stay on it, because it will really, when you're working with very muted tones like this, it will really start to muddy up your composition. So you want to be careful there. Right, so you don't have to have a ton of this either. I'm going to put something along each of these sides, each of these edges. Just do you. I don't have a plan here for all these flowers. Just a few here and there. This one has a lot of water in it, so I'm going to come back and pull up some of that water. And notice when I come back and pull up water, I'm tapping my brush off. I'm not coming back with going into my water and coming back, because you're defeating the purpose. You want to just tap your brush off every time you swipe. All right, I'm going to... This is still a little damp, so it's going to bleed up into those. If you don't like that, then you can correct that. But this is why I love watercolor, because it tends to do what it wants to do. I'm going to pull some of this yellow into some flowers, some literal flowers right here. I'm just going to put some here. All right, let's see. I'm going to go back and try to correct this, because it just got so wide. Let's see. I have extra paper towel in here. Let's see. I can do it with some wash or whatever. I'm actually going to be making a mess in here anyways. And that's the fun part of doing this. It's going in and creating fun pops of color. All right, let's dry it and make sure we're... Oops, I forgot my thing will plug in. Let's see here. Let's see. You really need more than one. Try to keep your cools and your darks separated the best you can. Now I think I will take and maybe use some masking. I actually think that I want a few white flowers scattered out. So if you know this in advance, or if you're just sitting here playing on a ruling pin, what did I do with my ruling pin? I'm not sure. If I put it in here or if I put it in my drawer. Alright, it's fine there. It's in my drawer. Let me look. My husband and I were here the other day digging through my drawers, and my drawer is an organized mess right now. Where did it go? I'm looking for it, y'all. Well, I'm gonna try this. I'm gonna try this and see if I can get what I want. When your masking starts getting like that, try to pull that off. Try to get that out of there. All right. And I'm gonna just with this being white, it's harder to see. And I'm leaving big drops, and I don't really want to. I'm gonna try to make a shape with this. I want some of these to be really close. This is not working. All right, hold on, guys. I gotta figure out what I'm gonna do here. Let me get this off of here. I gotta find that. And try glass pen. You can also use the paintbrush, but it will ruin your paintbrush. I'll tell you that. What happened to my little pens? Let me try glass pen. I'm not really trying to create any specific shape. if you use a paintbrush, if you roll it in like hand soap or dish soap, and then just put it in the masking, and then just scrape off some of that. Then use some of your masking. And then afterwards, just take a paper towel and get as much of everything out of your paintbrush. It should protect your paintbrush. Dish soap or hand soap should protect those brushes some. Put some there. Hey, Ruth. I use some of everything. The pen that I have right now is mostly White Knights. They're a professional Russian brand. I made a small family business, but I have a lot of Daniel Smith and Schmincke and that in my paints. Alright, do you work with watercolor? I'm going to take and do some of these. I didn't put it in my bag, my seeded watercolor bag by accident, and that's a possibility, but I sure can't find my brush anywhere right now. Or my balloon pen anywhere right now. I'm making little teardrop shapes right this minute. Clean your pen off every once in a while, keep it from building up. You really need to clean this later, make sure you have all that off there. I'm going to just take them over here now and do a few of these little white. Don't make them all completely straight. Make them some curved. Come up here and do some over top of my bunny. And I'm using Core's masking fluid right now. That's Q-O-R. Tell me how much snow y'all got over the weekend. The Outer Banks, which is just east of us, got over a foot of snow. Unbelievable. Very unusual for that area to get that amount of snow. So I'm just putting some of these white. I'm going to try to do some over here. Again, balance. I have some on this side, so I'm going to do some over here. I know y'all can't see this, I'm sorry. This does start to turn yellow as it dries, so hopefully you'll be able to see where I laid it down. Have some come down on this side. Now that we're going to have our wreath underneath of this, so we've got to plan for that. All right. Here, a couple here. Let's see where else am I on it. I'm looking at my drawing. I might put a few here. I'm just going to put some drops, some little. Okay. Go ahead and put your. It's better to decant this. If I didn't tell you already, put it in a small little container and then you put your lid right up on that immediately. Because the more it's exposed to air, the quicker it's going to go bad. I missed it. What was yuck? We've actually had that mother over here. Yeah, it's 2-3 feet. That's crazy. Right. And we know that heating up masking fluid is not ideal. But I'm teaching you guys and y'all want to see what this is going to become. So we're going to go ahead and try to work through this. I'm going to try to be real careful here. Keeping my dryer moving constantly and keeping it at a distance. This is a heat gun, it is not a blow dryer. And so using a lot of heat will cause a lot of problems for masking fluid when you're painting. So the last thing you want to do is worry so much about that. I think I am going to use some purple, but it's going to be a muted purple here. I think we're going to put some of those little like seed berry type things on here. I think that would be kind of cool. So I've got some, here's my wreath that I've drawn in. I've got some flowers coming off that edge, some over here, some over here. And once we get our grapevine wreath in, we can make more. But this will get us started good. There's something I'm going to do now that will add to it that I need to put in first before I put my grapevine on. But I need this masking fluid to dry. And then we'll work on our bunny. You want to try to keep your masking fluid. See how thick some of this got? Try not to do that. It's going to create a problem for the drying time on it. But you can really start to see it now that it's in the process of drying. But it's actually not too bad. You want to make sure it doesn't come off on your finger anywhere. Because you don't want to ruin your brushes. Some of my brushes are pretty expensive brushes, and the last thing I want is to get masking fluid on them. Right now, all these colors that I've mixed here, I just want to kind of make a mash up. And what I might do is just go in and loosen some of this really lightly. I want really very loose color, okay? And then I'm going to want to add some, maybe here I'm going to add some of this. I'm just going to add some of this. You can just take it straight from your color. I'm just going to add some of this down on my paper. Try not to go into your bunny like I just did. Just lift it up. It's no big deal really, because the bunny's going to be much darker. And I'll just take and balance that out by putting some over on this side. And do whatever you're masking around your flowers that you put on. And you can mask these flowers here if you want to. And I'm just taking the clean water now and making sure that you make sure you don't get this green into your pretty flowers. Like I said, you can go ahead and mask them if you want to. I'm just putting some loose color. Doesn't have to be a perfect edge or anything like that. I'm going to take some of this yellow. I'm going to do the same thing. Just water and pull that around. You want to kind of put colors next to each other that are going to work. So I put this yellow and this green next to each other when it blends. It's going to be okay because there's yellow and green, right? And I can give this a spritz as I go, trying to keep things from looking too serious, and so that the blends start happening naturally. Okay. I'm going to take some color here, something similar. I got a little bit light, so I'm going to be careful. I want this to be very loose. Go in between my stems. You can tell I'm not spending a ton of time doing that. And spritz on this side. And that sprayed water is what's going to give this a really cool looking edge. Make sure I get this edge good. So I'm just making some areas will have harder edges. That's okay. I'm spritzing it all. It's just a spritz. I'm not trying to wet the entire paper, just the areas clear and round. This can be very intimidating for anyone who's new to watercolor. And I'm just pushing my brush in between like my flowers that I put in. Trying not to get it on there, but I'm not gonna cry or spill milk here. Okay, and then I'm gonna just take some of this. I have some pink here, and I'm just gonna add some little bits of it here and there. See how little bit it is? Blending it more into like my. And what I'm trying to do is just to make sure that this paint can travel in different directions. It can go where the water is, and it can start mixing and blending with the other colors that are wet. So I can just pick up my book and switch and move it around to use my brush and help it. And when these colors start communicating with one another, it becomes super pretty. You don't want to get overly light, which adding water will cause, but you don't want to be overly dark either. We're just not overly stressing. We want this to look pretty natural. And then I might pick up a little bit of that pink color and put it in here. You just don't. Just gentle with your colors. It's a soft mix. It's soft. And see how we're making kind of a ring of very muted and soft color. That's when it's not this one into my bunny. I'm not going to overly stress about that because my bunny will be fine. All right, so down here I need to put some color. Let's see here. I'm going to put this green, some more of this green. I made plenty of the green. I just make plenty of everything else. I'm going to put it over here on this edge here. I've got some here. I'm just going to. And I'm going to take some of that purple and yellow. Oop, that's a lot of yellow. I ran out of it, so remember I'm going to scooch some of this over. Pick up just a little purple. Put it in this yellow. Add a little extra water. I'm not picking up from that, I'm picking up from here. And I'm going to come over here. Pick up some of this yellow. I'm going over the masking fluid, which is one of the reasons why we put the masking down, so that we can see these flowers when we lift that masking. Alright, I'm going to try and spray this a little bit. And this yellow is going to blend into this green some and make more of the yellow green when it meets. This yellow blends in with this red that we put next to it. It'll be a really pretty color. And again, you do not have to do this. If you don't like doing something like this, if it makes you nervous, then don't do it. I'm going to dry it. Because we use water, these colors are going to dry significantly. I'm actually going to use a little bit more of this orangey color. I need some of that in here. Okay. Just. You can totally do that before if you know what colors you're using. You can do that before you lay any of these flowers down. Just know that you're going to have forethought. Again, be careful with your heat when you're masking fluid. I've got a pretty large area over here with green. I'm going to pick up some of this pink. I'm just kind of drop it in here, right over the green. There's a lot of blue in this green. Remember that we started with the phthalo. So I'm not overly worried about it turning brown, but I am going to be careful about it. I'm just going to spritz it and move it down a little bit. Sometimes you need to take your brush, help lift and move things around. But just having that little extra break in color. Again, this is not something you have to do. And if you want to do it and you know what your forethought and cut in your flowers are going to be, then you can do this in advance. I haven't put anything down. But any color that you put down here, when you put color over top of it, remember, you're going to see it through every color that you put down. So you just have to decide whether or not it's worth it for you or not. Now I'm going to pull out some of my browns. I'm going to use some burnt umber, and some sepia. And then I want to use my liner brush or my rigger, is what we call them in watercolor. It doesn't matter though. And now I'm going to take and gently cover over these lines. They don't have to be perfect. We're just going to go ahead and start putting down where our wreath is. And this is just the inner circle of our wreath. I'm going to turn this. And this is still wet up here, so I'm going to dry it some more. I'll smear it because it's still wet. You can really start to see this color stuff put down fade off pretty significantly. Okay. Back into my brown and finish with this line. And I still have room here for more flowers, and I can add those in as I wish. That helps me to kind of get a basis for the rest of the painting here. I'll go ahead and put in some lines right down there as well. Okay, let's worry about our bunny a little bit. I'm going to take some of this pinky red color. I'm going to pull this in here. Right there, only where inside the ear is. And that pink right there is going to be pretty important because it's going to speak to the other pinks here. Just as the colors of our bunny are going to speak more to the rest of our painting. Alright, so we know that in watercolor what we want to do is build up our layers, especially when you're talking about the dimension of an animal or human. Oh, I'm glad you're enjoying it, Jerry. You want to kind of build those areas up. So I'm going to do some raw sienna here. Raw sienna, which is very earthy tone. And I'm going to put in plenty of water into my sienna. Okay, I'm going to use this here. My painting is still pretty damp. But for the sake of time, we're going to move on. I'll put some in there. And raw sienna, because it's very much a fugitive color, it's going to fade pretty nicely. So I'm going to just try to keep, like right here, even though we put the paint down, go back and lift, and keep that pretty soft. No hard lines, right? Go ahead and cover that. Paint wants to streak on me for some reason. Okay, I'm going to use that same color. Remember, we're going to see anything that's under this. So I'm still seeing that green here. So we'll have to kind of work on trying to get that covered. Okay, cover right over top of our masking fluid that we dropped down here. That's going to be our white flowers. So what are y'all doing creatively today? We have been crazy busy the last several weeks. Just really, really busy. Alright, so we got our first layer of our bunny on. I can barely see that green underlayer under there. Barely see it. By the time we're done here, we'll be good. We'll be golden. I'm going to get a little bit of this pink right here at the tip of it. Oops, I didn't get that far. Right here at the tip of his nose. It just wants to do what it wants to do here. Let's come all the way to the outside. Let's use a smaller brush. Maybe that'll help. There we go. And I can keep it out. Okay. I can still see that, but I can fix it later with some gouache or something. I just make it worse, of course, because I keep messing with it. Sometimes it's best to just leave things leave well enough alone. Okay, we'll leave it well enough alone. So now we need to go in and I'm going to mix some of my brown, my raw umber, excuse me, raw umber. And this is still on the damp side, so I'm just going to take lightly and kind of go underneath this neckline. I'm going to go back with the damp brush and soften that off. Just make sure that. And then I'm going to take that umber color and come down here where his shoulder starts. Always go back. Very good, Jerry. I'm going to take now and go wherever my shadows are, right? I'm going to go here and here. Remember that this is all likely it's still a little damp, but even if it's not, I'm going to go back with the damp brush. Look, I'm not going, a lot of people have a tendency to do this. Don't do that. You want to kind of go, just ride the line right next to where you left off. You're making contact with the line, but you need it to be soft. That same brown. I'm going to come up this way. Right the line, soften that line up. I'm going to mix some of this with the undercolor, which is the sienna. Take some of the water off my brush here. I'm going to kind of make a little brow for him. Come back, dampen it. Do the same here, underneath the eye. There should be a little bit of a white edge between the eye. And I'm going to take it right here in between these ears. So right up next to that. There we go. I'm going to use just a detail brush. Picking up a little bit of, making sure I don't have any more on my barrel. I'm picking up just a little bit of sepia. I'm going to the inside of this ear. And just dampening this edge. I have some of this paint on my brush now, so I'm just going to use it to make a real soft border. I'm going to take some of my pink. I'm sure it's just making sure you don't have too much water on your brush. Religion Crimson. I tried to think of this color, and I tried to think of this color. I'm having word selection issues today. If you need help deciding on what brand of paints to use, I have a list of all of that. If you look in the albums and the files of this group, all that should be there. If you're new and just starting your watercolor. If you've been at it for a while, you probably know which paints are professional grade. I recommend professional grade, but there are some pretty decent student grade ones out there while you're learning. The problem with some of the student grade paints is that they muddy very quickly, and people always look at mine and look at theirs and don't understand why theirs doesn't look like mine, and that's a big part of the problem. I can't stress enough how your paper and your paints make a big deal in watercolor. They just do. All right, I'm going to take now and use another detail brush again. Get a little bit of this. Let's see if I can soften this off a little bit. It looks a little harsh. I can't my brush. Okay, I'm going to go into some of my paints right now. Use my detail brush. It's really dark now. I kind of wait in. I'm use my bottom because it's a little warmer than sepia. I'm trying to knit those two together a little bit. Let's see. I just mixed these two, my raw umber and my raw sienna together. Just to kind of create some warm tones here. And we can go right down over top of where we've put our shadowing, and it should stay put. Just gonna keep going down until I don't see any more lines of color. And then I'm going to take here, and I'm going to make sure I really got that covered down here. Okay, so we got it really pretty well done. I'm gonna mix some more of my umber with some more of my sienna. Didn't need that much, but I'm going to do it anyways. It is what it is. Put some over to the side here. There we go. So we're going to keep this top edge of our bunny kind of soft. Okay. So we're not trying to get overly picky about our bunny either. I'm going to use the same color with the mixers. I'm going to put in some of his fingers here. You don't want that to be dark. Like, you don't want it to be a dark brown color because it will. Put some darkness down here. Again, down here, because when it dries, it really lightens because it's a fugitive color. So you may have to go over it several times. What do I have to do? Thank you, Sandy. You just play with him. Put some of this over here. Okay. So this right down here as well. Okay. Okay. Let's try it. you. Thank you. Hi, Tanya. How are you? It is possible. And there's more than one way to approach things. You don't have to feel like my approach is the only approach. Our brains work differently in how we approach certain things. We just need to know that there might be some areas in our painting that need to be white, or there might be some areas that might need to be done before other areas. And you learn that just as you go and continuing to paint. It's just, I can tell you that, but the chances of you remembering it all, you're going to remember it once you put it into practice more than you are by just watching me. I'm just going to start pulling in and going around using going between my flowers and such. I'm using different browns to accomplish. Get some more of my umber up here. I use a lot of umber, so I'm just going to put some more in my. Okay. So we're just going to, and these don't have to be perfect. These can be in all directions. You don't want it to be a very thick grapevine wreath. See how that's starting now? We're just working around the flowers. We're trying to make it rustic looking. We're not trying for this to look super neat. So if you've got a shaky hand, use it to your advantage. Take some of this brown, this darker brown, mix the stems and these little white flowers here. I'll get it off up here in a minute. I need to call my allergist today. So we're just going around our flowers. Not even trying to be perfect. Bunny is so simple. Bunny is so simple. Just utilize those. Okay. Utilizing the what do you call them? The shadows. I'm just gonna, in some of these areas where we have these flowers that we're gonna put some of these light brown stems in. We'll have some green stems as well, but we're gonna have some brown stems too. Do that. And see here where we kind of lost our flowers when we did our splash of colors. We're going to go back and revisit those flowers now, make them a little bit more highlighted. And put some more of those right there. I forgot to put some. Area right here, that's our hard line. Just watch what your watercolors do, because they can push back and create a bloom. Let's try that. Alright, these areas where I have my flowers, I need to go in and add a little bit more color around them, this loose color around them, because they are they need to pop off the page when I take them. Again, I'm just taking and pulling, and I'm going to take some of my spray here in a minute. I'm going to spray it. I'm going to move it. Okay, that's looking good. I've got a little bit of extra right here. I'm going to take what's wet and put a little bit of my red in some of these areas. Move it. It's not very wet, so I'm going to spray some while it's wet. And just pull and move, pull and push, pull and push. Look at that, y'all. All right, happy moments, happy moments. I'm going to come back in here now and push in some more of this darker, these darkers. And this is going to help make some of these other colors pop more now that they're lighter. And shift and move it. Okay. I like tucking some of this red underneath where I have some of these florals, giving it a little bit of oomph. And again, don't want to move it so much because you don't want to get that muddy. You don't want to move it and play with it so much because you don't want to get muddy. I'll pull over some of my. This is what people love about watercolor, is just the ability to move it and the ability to create. In fact, I'm putting this red lightly down in here. It's just going to, especially over that green, it's going to mute it. It's going to mute it too. And even though I didn't do a specific mix for this, we're going to have some muted color because it's going over top of the greens. And you can get too heavy. I'm starting to get a little bit heavy, so I'm going to try to be careful, not get crazy. sometimes just taking your brush with the color on it and moving it helps it too. Get that off my flower. Gorgeous. And I'm going to take some of my sounding color here in this area. Up in here. And spray. Okay. Let's dry it. I'm happy with the way it looks. Dry it. Happens sometimes. I do it all the time here. It needs to be completely dry so that you can remove the masking here shortly. We're waiting for something to dry. This is another kind of something. It's cheaper than my gouache that I recommend if y'all want to use something different than the Dr. P.H. Martin's Bleed Proof White. I really kind of stopped buying this because it doesn't last long. I get maybe a third of the way down and the ink just starts drying, and it's just ugly and messy. I still used it, but I just would rather have. And for as much as you use it for like little details like that, it's an option. Oh my goodness. Here's time travel. Yeah, let's go ahead. I'm actually pretty happy with this, and so I'm gonna see if I can fix this a little bit here. Soften it off. Just have a damp brush. All right. I can see it a little bit because I put that color down. They're gonna be pretty soft. See, sometimes little white flowers added in can add some really pretty effects. I'm sure that a few extra there. I didn't make sure. I'm just making sure I got everything here. Okay. All right, now I'm going to use I'm going to take and add a little bit of water to my green over here. I'm going to start putting a few green stems. Make sure that you kind of turn your brush. Twist and turn it. Okay, and just pulling, twisting, turning, adding little lighter colored stems here. They're coming off and more than natural. Alright, I need to get some blue, and orange, some green. Just need enough paint where I can move it on my brush roll. Just check your spaces, see where you need stems. I'm going to have some areas where, like I said, I'm going to put some berries. Sit back and look every once in a while. Look and see what you need. This particular flower, because it's so large, I'm going to separate some of these petals here. Okay. Do the same here. Do that with detail. Okay. I'll pull some of this left. Got some masking here. And remember to take that off. Just making connections. Yes. The last minute details, absolutely. Okay, a little bit broad on that end. Alright, let's mix up some of our purpley color for our berries. Let's take some of this reddish purple. Not really purple, it's more of a mauvey purple. I'm mixing it into this green, bluish green that we created. And I really need it to be thicker, to be honest with you. Because I don't want it to... I definitely want it to be muted. But I want it to be thicker than this really loose watery paint. So just adding more paint here. And there we go. Perfect. Alrighty. I'm going to take my smaller size 2 brush here. Just like this. And this one here I'm going to sitting with those small details. I'm going to go ahead and pull this masking fluid off here before I forget to do that, because don't want to forget. I'm actually going to just put some of these purple flowers, these purple berries here as well. What else do we need, y'all? All right. Need to make my pink, orange color. That's your pink. Okay, now we need to come off with a little bit of a muted color. Put some of this inside the flower here. I'm highlighting a few of these. Use a smaller brush. I need to. Hey Joanne, how are you? I don't like this area right here. It's bothering me. And it's stained. It's pretty stained. Alright, I'm going to try to do something with the tone of these white flowers. A little bit of this purple over here. I don't want them all white because they don't look natural. So we're just going to swoosh some of this color in. Just putting a dot in the center of most of them. Some of them aren't. I'm not able to put a dot in them. Alright. Right here. Okay. I think these yellow flowers here need a little help. Let's see, a little purple. I'm going to come over here and just start adding some areas for depth. It doesn't have to be perfect because it will. These are abstract. It just adds color to the area. And a couple more. I put some here. We're just going to, because of all that green in the background, make it so that we can see these. And some of these I'm going to put some color. Alright, I think we've got, I'm going to go into my round sepia with my liner or river brush, and where I need to add some detail into my okay. You could definitely spend much more time on this if you wanted to. You know, it's all about what colors are going to work together and next to each other and on top of each other, Sandy, and how you do that. So, you know, you're not going to want to put, you know, do a whole lot of aggressive yellow next to purple because you're going to wind up having a lot of brown, right? So, I could spend a lot more time on this, but I've got a lot more to my day that I need to accomplish as well, and I hope you guys enjoyed it and will try it. I'll put the tracer up here shortly, if I haven't already. I can't remember if I ever did. So, y'all have a blessed one. I'll put this up for your reference so that you can see it. Thank you so much. Thank you, Sandy. Thank you, Donnie. Everybody that's watching, thanks so much. Y'all have a blessed one. Take care. Bye-bye.